Business Growth Engine Daily. I want to talk about the power of podcasting. If you're looking to amplify your message, look at new mediums, ride the trends of where the eyeballs are. Give some thoughts to this. Myself, I personally run a podcast called The Open Mic, and the reason I chose to do it is because I saw a major trend moving in the marketplace, and that is obviously the smartphone revolution. Think about how popular audiobooks are and how they've come, because if I'm sat here in my car, I can't read a book, but I can listen to an audiobook. And podcasting has a very, very similar sort of convenience factor that, it doesn't matter if you're at home, you're in the car, you're out in the gym on a treadmill, you can listen to a podcast and get that valuable piece of information. Now, whether that's a business podcast, a leisure podcast, a family and health and well-being podcast, doesn't matter. Here's some crazy stats, but realistically, you'd be a fool not to at least take notice of these as serious contributors to where your ideal customers and audience are. In June 2018, now this recording is done in June 2019, so some 12 months later, the Apple reported just over 550,000 podcasts on its channel. 12 months later, there is over 750,000 podcasts. So you might be thinking, with a 200,000 growth in podcasts, that's over 4,000 podcasts a week getting released. Now, one thing about competitive positioning is, if there is a lot of competition and a lot of people are doing it, then that's really because there's a demand for it. People don't keep putting money into running podcasts, and I'm going to get to that in a moment, because there is a cost in both time, energy, money to do that. They don't do that if it doesn't work. So if you think about it, 200,000 people have launched podcasts in the 12 months. Why? Smartphone revolution, podcaster in the hand, the Worldwide Developer Conference, that's where Apple launched all its new products. State, ridiculous stats. Now, put an infographic below from various sort of stats around podcasting, but will they also report that podcast listeners are more educated, they're more dedicated, because they're seeking knowledge, they're taking time out. I think there's a Nielsen report as well that states that the average American now listens to over 7 hours of podcasts per week. Now, that may be a blend of business, it may be a blend of consumer or retail. It doesn't really matter. The reality is, even if you look at shows like Chernobyl, one of the best rated shows, on IDMB, that's just recently come out on Sky Atlantic, the HBO miniseries. Even HBO have released all their scripts on a podcast. So that's showing you the diversity of podcast hosts, from TV scripts, from television stations, to people like myself who work in the business growth community, to sports channels, political shows. I watch Sophie Ridge on Sky News on a Sunday morning. She's got a podcast for political news. The diversity and the breadth of podcast knowledge is there. It's super convenient, and guess what? They're free. You're not having to subscribe. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Audible user. I love my Audible subscription. It's worth every cent that I pay for it. But at the end of the day, if you can find somebody that you can connect with, somebody that provides value, you're comfortable listening to their delivery and their tones and the content, then podcasting's a great way. So now I'll give you a little bit of background. Let's now talk about how you get started with podcasting. I look back at my journey. 2016, we played about with it. The first 10 episodes, we were trying to find out the format. So here's a quick set of bullet points to get you going. Think about what your podcast is going to be about, and whether the content that you're going to serve is actually going to provide value and help solve the problems or create interest to your specific audience. I mentioned earlier, for me, my Open Mic podcast is all about an entrepreneur's view on the growth strategies and how to bridge the gap between the ideas that you get and successful implementation. So once you've picked the topic, then pick the format of your show. So for me, mine's pretty straightforward. I interview influencers from around the world, New Zealand, America, Europe, UK, on their specialist subjects. And my format is, I introduce the format, the title of the show, I then give my personal view on it, and what my experiences are around that. I introduce the influencer. I give a bio about that person's influence so they can, demonstrate the credibility and authority. And then I ask them 5 questions about that specialist subject on, the popular questions that people want to know, how to do it, not just what it is, but how to implement it. And then I get a recap at the end, and then I close out of the show. My podcasts run on average 45 to 60 minutes. There's the odd occasion one they're done in 30 minutes, and the really deep dive ones are done at 90 minutes, but average an hour. I publish them at least 4 to 5 times a month, and I'm targeting that type of play. I mentioned Sophie Ridge on Sunday on Sky News. She does a political podcast, so that's interviewing politicians of the day, all about relevant topics, whether that be Brexit, new Conservative leader elections, anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, the political issues that's happening at that time, political scandals, resignations in the cabinets and things like that. So it's not difficult. So, if you get your format, what's your show going to be about? What's the format? Then how do you get started? Pretty straightforward. We use Libsyn, libsyn.com. Starts from, free version. I think ours is about $30-40 a month, because we've got quite a bit of content on there. That will then push it out to all the distribution channels like Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, Apple's podcasts. You can then go to additional distribution channels like we do, like Acast, Overcast, iTunes, or TuneIn, should I say. So there is so many distribution channels, and then, produce the hell out of it, make it high value. But the key message that I want to give you as a pro tip when it comes to podcasting is consistency. Do not keep changing the experience of your listener, because they will leave. They sign up for a podcast for a reason, because they can sign in, whether that's a daily, weekly, bi-monthly or monthly podcast, to get a specific piece of information. As a football fan, I dial into the Sunday Supplement podcast. That's where the UK's journalists report on what's happening in the latest football news, insider news. It gives you good tips. And again, if they change that show, or it wasn't every Sunday throughout the regular season, then I'd be saying to myself, well, why are you changing that? I tuned in for a specific reason. You've changed that. So improving it, modifying it. Looking at your analytics inside the things like Libsyn and the platforms will by no means not do you any harm. It gives you good practice to sort of look at the analytics, to look at improvements, get feedback from your audience. But ultimately, find your niche. Why would you not have it as another marketing medium? Why not? You'd put, direct mail, press ads, magazine ads, trade show, all the offline stuff. Then you've got the online, pay-per-click, display advertising, Facebook, Google, paid search, email marketing, landing pages, webinars. Why not podcasting? So if you're struggling to think about how to get started, go back and recheck those points that I've done. There's also a great website called podcastinsights.com. A couple of other pro tips. You're going to need a Google Play license and an Apple developer license. The Google Play license is totally free. The Apple developer license, I think, is about $80 a year, something around that you have to pay for Apple to be a developer. But once you get that up and running, you can start publishing on the platforms, and people like Libsyn are going to help you get started as well. So if you've got any questions, I'd love you to leave me a comment below about podcasting. Ask me a question. As a podcast host, I'm here to help. And if you want some help with podcasting, just leave that comment below. We'll get those questions answered for you. So thanks for considering podcasting. I hope it's sort of sparked your interest about, hey, could I find a place? Well, there's 4,000 people a week are launching out podcasts over the last 12 months. There is enough demand. Just be unique, be authentic, provide more value, than you ask for in exchange of the time that people would need to invest to listen. Do your research, and as always, continue your growth engine development. As always, get in the game, go do the hustle, and we'll catch up with you on another Growth Engine Daily real soon.